Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies with your host, Jason Marshall.
Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies. I'm your host, Jason Marshall. Today I have a very special show. It would be awkward if I started out the show with a guest in the studio and said it was going to be ho-hum or bad. But longtime listeners know I've said on the podcast that it's cursed. The first time I think I really went into it was a few months ago on my birthday show. It's the episode titled Happy Birthday, Jason. On that particular show, my lead guest canceled right before the show. The fourth studio mic broke. We had to cancel the third hour of the show because the guest for that hour got in a Facebook fight. Gosh. That was all canceled. Another guest almost couldn't make it. And the next day, Mike told everybody that I was dead. So it didn't go as planned, but that wasn't the first incident. There were computers that broke, equipment that broke, promises broken, segment contributors and guests canceling. It's been a battle sometimes, and I first brought up the idea of having something done about the curse on the episode called Can't Stop the Feeling. But as it turns out, a lot of people don't just go around doing exorcisms all willy-nilly. They take that kind of seriously, and they don't want to have any
Yelp reviews for Exorcist.
Yeah.
He didn't totally get all the demons out. I hated him. He was wearing an alb that wasn't even wrinkled. It was wrinkled. It wasn't even pressed.
It's kind of hard to just pull that off.
Right.
And my guest at the time, Mama Kate, brought up that we should have the show blessed instead of exorcised because that's kind of hard to do.
Indeed.
It's somewhat unpractical.
It's a specialty.
And she recommended my guest today. I want to welcome to the show Dwight McCormick.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
Good. How are you?
Great. Glad to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying this to be sacrilegious. I really don't know. I don't know if I should call you a preacher or a priest.
You can call me Dwight, or I go by Reverend or preacher. Priest is more for Episcopals and Catholics, and what they call us in our denomination, the Presbyterian Church USA, is Reverend.
Okay.
But I'm just Dwight. That works for me.
All right, because I'm not really. I was when
You're
I
a
went
heathen?
to church.
Are you heathen? Yeah.
I am. That's a good term for it.
Right. I am too, but I'm in recovery. So
when I was growing up, my parents always went to a Baptist church.
Oh, okay.
And they were always preachers or reverends, and I know different religions have their different titles, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's Protestant, so reverend or preacher, and actually I use preacher for my comedy. It's my website is preachercomic.com. So Preacher Comic is what I go by.
And we'll have a link to that in the show notes if anybody wants to visit that. Well, one of the
if anybody.
Well, I'm sure they'll be flocking.
That's funny. No, millions. You
know what? Flocking was a good term.
Right.
We're talking about religion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing stand-up?
2006 is the first time I ever went up on stage. It was at the Huntington Funny Bone. They had this open mic competition, and you had to pay to get in it. It was a $10 admission fee, and if you won, you got your money back plus $90. And I ended up winning that little contest.
Awesome.
I think I was one of two folks who wrote any jokes ahead of time. And also, I think out of about 75 in the audience, I had 40, so that didn't hurt.
Oh, yeah, that helps. It's surprising how many people think they can just go up there and talk.
Right, exactly.
And that's what comedy is just people talking about their day or what happened that week.
Exactly, yeah. The greats, that's how they make it look, as though they're doing, like Louis C.K. and Dave Attell. They seem as though, so... Well, I mean, I guess Attell more set up punchline, but certainly Bill Burr and Louis C.K., it appears as though they're just talking. But yeah, they've really ironed out a lot of material.
Before I get ahead of myself, one of the reasons you're here is to bless the show. We're going to have that coming up at the end of the episode. I'm really excited about that because it needs it.
All right. Well, I researched some prayers, and we have some here, and I brought my Bible, so be glad to help.
Awesome. You were talking about how you just won that contest. Do you have any bombing stories or any heckling stories?
Yeah, bombing stories. I have several. I think the one that came to mind when we were talking about it was this Toledo Funny Bone. I was asked to do 20 minutes of material 20 minutes of material in front of a clean comic up there, and I didn't have 20 minutes at the time, and I should have turned the gig down. I think it was about 3 years in. I got up there and had about 10 minutes of material, and even that I was delivering poorly without confidence, and oh my gosh. So it was brutal. It was about 5 minutes of getting moderate laughs and about 15 minutes of lots of painful silence, which for Presbyterians is pretty good. I mean, we enjoy silence during worship, but in a comedy club, you're going to really want to have some response. So it was apparent early on that my confidence was so low and my material was not developed, and that just didn't go well. And then the headliner poked fun at me after that, he did so in a good-natured way, which you should do when somebody for 15 minutes is just crickets.
You got
to acknowledge that, which at the time though, man, I was crushed, but I learned the hard way. Pride goes before a fall, it says in Scripture, and I was prideful in taking a gig that I didn't have any business taking. So.
How did you get your confidence up?
Well, I think I still struggle with it, to be honest with you. I'm a egomaniac with low self-esteem. That's what I am, and that's what they call a lot of us folks in recovery. And but anyway, I think in general, if I trust that my value lies in being created in the image of God and being a beloved child of God, when I do that, then my confidence is solid. And I think any human being, we struggle at different times with our confidence, depending on the context. But in terms of comedy, if you get practice, like the more you get on stage, obviously the sharper you are. And right now I'm not as sharp. I haven't been up as much, but getting on stage a lot gives you more confidence too.
Yeah, you're right about that, because I have a really hard time on stage. Once it gets going, it's not so bad.
Right.
But usually I'm fine until about an hour before, and then I just
start sweating it.
Yeah. And then once I get up there, it's great, and then I get down, and I loved it. And, I want to do it again as soon as possible.
Exactly.
And then I wait about 8 to 10 months.
Right.
And it all starts all over.
Right, yeah. You get dull if you don't get up there, or rusty, whatever you want to call it. But I think, what are they in New York? I guess comics, aren't they up like multiple times a night?
Yeah.
So 10, 15 times a week they're on stage. And I've heard people call it like a boxing, it's like you're in boxing, like you're in training. And, you can go to New York to get really hard and really good and sharp, or anywhere you can get in front of a lot of mics,
Yeah, because you hear about it all the time. They just run out of one club, go down the road, and they're in another one.
And there's a lot
in Chicago, too.
Right, exactly. Any bigger cities. But Dayton does a pretty good job of having multiple open mics for a smaller town. I think they run a lot of them, and there's plenty of opportunities if you just take the time to sign up and go down.
And it's hard to believe how many there are until you get involved, and you just think, wow, I had no idea that there were all these comedy shows. I just thought it was Funny Bone and Wiley's.
Right, yeah.
That's it. We're going to get into a unintentional segment for this week. It's called Sweet or Psychotic.
All right.
I want to get your opinion on this.
Okay.
These people have been wearing matching outfits every day for the last 52 years.
Wow.
Is that sweet or is that nuts?
I'm not trained to give a professional opinion on that.
That might be
I think there's some sweetness in that. I might imagine where we're coming from. If we have more cynical nature, we might say that's psychotic, or we might, I don't know. I think it's definitely odd.
Yeah, I'm borderline with that too, because I'm married. Just celebrated my 12th anniversary just a few weeks ago.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. So on one hand, it's like, man, that's really sweet that there's such a cohesive unit that they get up every day and they plan their outfits, and God knows how close they are after that. So on one hand, I sort of envy that part, and on the other hand, it's like, my God, you get up every day and you first thing you worry about is making sure you have tandem outfits.
Now,
that's kind of odd.
That would be one of my questions: is does the woman lay the clothing out for the man, or does the man lay? And then also, how does he find heels to fit? And, does he shave his legs, or does he just wear the dresses? And how does that all plan out? I guess would be. But in general, though, if the wife or the one spouse or the other is laying out the clothes for the other one, I would imagine that would talk about the dynamic and the psychology behind the relationship. If every day she's laying out the clothes, or if he's laying out the clothes, I bet that could give us insights. Tell me about your mother. How does she treat you? I mean, your wife. Sorry.
I might try to get them on the show. They might be my next Skype guest.
There you go.
There are a lot of questions.
Where do they live?
Let's see. I was thinking they live in Wisconsin, but Washington, actually.
Okay. Yeah, they're close on a map. Yeah.
Married 52 years. I guess you got to spice it up
52 years,
somehow.
right,
and
exactly,
It's
you know.
with matching outfits.
Right.
The next one I have, oh man, I really got mixed feelings about them. You have children?
I do. I have 2 daughters.
Oh, I got 2 daughters too.
Abinadab and Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah.
So this is what makes it kind of a difficult choice, whether it's sweet or psychotic.
Right.
There was a mother who fulfilled her 4-year-old's wish for a birthday cake.
Okay.
You've had birthday cakes for your kids.
Sure.
And daughters. I'm sure they were princess cakes.
Right, yeah, you can put different things on them, give them a Disney logo or, you know.
Being guys, when we were growing up, you know, we would have like a wrestling cake or a John Deere cake. Or
I remember having little plastic race cars on one before, and like they drew the track and the icing. That was it was a while ago. I think I'm probably 20 years or more your senior, but I love those race car cakes. I hadn't thought of that in a long time. But what was this? What was this young man's cake?
This particular cake is a cow giving birth.
Wow, that is weird.
It's showing a.
It's really strange because they have no ties to the farming community at all. It's just no. What?
Yeah, they live in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Did he request it? Or
yeah, and he wouldn't budge. They wanted
but they live on a farm, hopefully, I guess.
He is just really into animal shows.
Okay.
And there's one in particular on the National Geographic Channel that he's gravitated to, and he wanted to have
a cow giving birth.
Cake. And it's
I'm going to go ahead and call this as pre-psychotic. We're going to hear about this young man later.
I'm sure, because there's afterbirth included, and all kinds of stuff.
What websites are you visiting? That's what I want to. How are you finding these?
Just go to strangepeople.org.
Strangepeople.org. All right. They are a sponsor, I hope.
They will be. They better be. But I don't know how to feel about that, because
it's odd, yeah.
That can't be. I know you want to give your kids what they want.
Yeah, he's 4, so hey, you know.
But you're going to have, maybe you can delete these, but you're going to have pictures of this kid's birthday cake. How's he going to explain that?
Timmy, look at this. This is when you had the afterbirth cake. Do you remember? Oh, it's so sweet. No, I don't know, man. That's
remember how bad you wanted that?
Right.
We kept saying, wouldn't SpongeBob be nice?
Right. What was the weirdest thing you ever wanted when you were 4 or a young kid that you asked for?
I don't know.
I was trying to think. I remember, did you ever?
I know what it is.
What was it?
This is going to show my age, but back in the day, we had J.C. Penney catalogs for Christmas.
Sure, yeah.
I always
so you're
look
a little
forward
older
to
than
those.
I thought you were, yeah. Okay.
Because that's where you seen what all the toys were.
Yeah, exactly. I remember those.
All at once.
Yeah, it was like a tangible catalog. It wasn't just online, yeah.
I never got this. And now I understand why, but at the time I was devastated. I was a big G.I. Joe fan.
Sure, yeah.
I love G.I. Joes. I almost had all of them.
Oh, okay.
So my dream was to have somewhere for them to live.
Okay.
So I always wanted a dollhouse so they could all have like a little compound.
Okay. Was there a G.I. Joe dream house like the Barbie house? Or I'm not aware of it. No? Okay. But you wanted a place for them to live.
Yeah, I thought, I have the battleship, I have the airplanes, I have the tanks. Wouldn't it be nice if they had a house?
I know, right?
That did not happen.
No, right.
That might have been the strangest thing that I asked for.
Right. They should make that. I don't know if Hasbro or Mattel, who made them, I don't remember, but they should listen to it. Maybe you could get them to make that.
I mean, it just makes sense they have a barracks, right?
Well, yeah, you would think. That would make sense to me.
Yeah. How about you?
I just remembered loving the $6 Million Man. So if I'm 44, so I remember the Steve Austin action figure. It wasn't I guess it's a doll really, but we're men, so it's an action figure. But it was one of the tall ones, like the old timey G.I. Joes. But it was the $6 Million Man, and I remember getting that and having the rocket. He had this rocket, which just was a big white piece of plastic and a blue top, and he's looking out the front of it. And I'm trying to remember the things that I wanted that I didn't get. I never got BB guns or any of that stuff. Parents were pretty much pacifists, so probably BB guns or any kind of guns to play with. Never had that.
Okay. Well, in honor of Dwight being on the show, we're going to go to break and play Epic Rap Battles of History, Adam versus Eve. A new segment's going to debut by Choo Choo Stu called Totally From UK Today, a.k.a. Totally F.U.K.T. And I don't know if that's in honor of you or not.
Nice.
I think we're past the in honor of Dwight portion of the segments. Choo Choo Stu is from the UK. We're glad to have him on board. And as you may have heard on the radio show, we have a new segment called Time to Get Fancy with Kristina Hughes.
I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and since he's my first, that makes me a new mom. When you become a new mom, everyone wants to cram unwanted advice down your throat. One that pisses me off is when I bitch to my friends about my crying and screaming baby, and they all say, "Oh, Kristina, do you know about the 5 S's? The 5 S's work. You should try the 5 S's." For those not in the know, the 5 S's are swaddle, side position, shush, swing, and suck. These 5 S's are supposed to calm the baby down. Yeah, okay. What about calming the mom down in order to deal with the kid's incessant crying? Here are the 5 S's I use for me. Sweets, shopping online, smacking the clam, Stoli vanilla vodka, and Skyping with dudes I meet on Tinder.
Oh, yeah.
For any new moms that might be listening, you should really try my 5 S's. The 5 S's work.
This battle's gonna end like every argument does. With you kissing my ass and begging me for a rub. I made a map, motherfucker, and I'm reading it too. Gives me specific directions how to fuck with you. I know that you like to think you're so macho, but you smell like ball sacks and nachos. I work while you and your boyfriend Steve drink and play sports in a fantasy league. You're as sharp as a stick that I rub on my lips, so go ahead, take a shot. I'm sure that you'll miss, like the laundry, the toilet, the grocery list. If you'd stop fucking up, I wouldn't have to get pissed.
My life was fine till you had to come along and wreck it. Could you please just shut your face for 10 seconds? You cry about everything, but can't decide what you want. I'm hungry, I'm fat, I'm cold, I'm hot. You call it complex, but you would call you a mess. You take 2 hours to come, 3 more to get dressed. You got a lotion for this, you got a cream for that. Got any perfume that smells like get the fuck off my back? When things are good, they're great, and it's like I'm dreaming. Until your junk starts bleeding and you turn to a demon. It ain't summer eve, don't try to play me like a douche. You want a bottom of fruit? Well, you can swallow the truth.
Don't even bring up Swallow, the first man on earth ain't a tough act to follow. One pump chump and you hung like a weasel. Ditch a fig leaf, get yourself a pine needle. You want alone time? Have it. In fact, suck your own dick and shave your own back. That apple's the best thing I've been so far. Now I see how much of a dick you are.
I wasn't listening. Are you still flapping those lips? I was just thinking, yo, did I give up a rib for this? Woman, I just don't know what your problem is. All I know is you're acting like a colossal bitch. I'm sorry.
Sorry, too.
Alright, nice.
Don't even think about
Okay,
it.
that's fine. We could eat.
And now, totally from UK Today.
Police carried out a controlled explosion at the weekend on what is believed to have been a pesto sandwich. Borough High Street in London was closed off on Sunday afternoon, leaving people trapped in a supermarket and a nearby pub. Officers detonated the brown bag near a bus stop. Upon investigation, once police had left the area, a witness discovered the exploded pesto sandwich where the brown bag once stood. The sandwich owner has not been traced.
And that was totally fucked. Do you have an impression request for Marco Fuji or just want to contact the show? Send an email to jason@wedon'thavecookies.com.
You can also call 929-266-9342, leave a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. And before we get going, this episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. They make strong coffee for strong people. Just visit blackriflecoffee.com. Now, coming back from the break, we got a question from last week's guest. If anybody out there wants to know who last week's guest was, check out last week's episode. Here's the question. Mm-hmm. The person who was on last week's show has no idea who they're asking this to.
I got you.
So keep that in mind, please.
Will I be asked to have a question for the next week's guest?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
How old were you the first time you ever had sex in your parents' bed on a weekday between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m.? Very specific.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know if I want to plead the fifth on that. I'm trying to remember if I doubt that I ever had sex in my parents' bed. Yeah, I don't think I did. So I have to say that I never did. So
Okay.
That's the answer.
Full disclosure, I usually never tell the guest who they're going to be asking.
Right.
And this was actually going to be asked to Adrian Miller, and we had to cancel the show because, well, I went over that in the previous episode, and we booked her on the radio show to make up for that.
Sure.
So once I realized this question was going to you, I had to get a hold of that person and be like, you're never going to guess who you just asked this to. All right. Well, the next thing we're going to do is get into this week's Dumbass of the Year, because I would feel a little awkward doing that after the blessing. I figure we'll close out on the blessing.
Right.
This week's Dumbass of the Year was somebody who fell into a porta potty's tank trying to get their friend's cell phone out.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Why is the friend not doing it? That's what. That's some friend. It used to be, what does they say? A friend helps you move. A real friend helps you move a body. But this one, a real friend reaches in a porta potty. I guess that's what you.
Or as Kenny Bolin would say, a friend in need is no friend indeed.
Right. Yeah. But reached in and fell in.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
my
guess.
Gracious.
I guess his friend tried to get it and couldn't. And this guy was petite enough to go into the hole, but in his words was not petite enough to come out of the hole.
Oh my gosh.
And he was down there for quite some time.
Right.
They had to cut the toilet off to pull him out.
Oh my gosh.
And he suffered some abrasions, which is not something you want to have when you're in the bottom of a porta potty.
Oh my gosh. That's such a horrible image.
Yeah. It happened in Norway.
Okay. All right.
So thankfully not here, but I'm sure it happens here too. There's just a different reason behind
Tuesdays, it. It's time to go to the porta john. What are we throwing in there today, Bob?
You just never know what's going to happen inside there.
I remember, wasn't there a Jackass episode where they got somebody in one and locked him in there? I'm trying to remember. Steve-O, maybe.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember that, but yeah, those are horrible.
I remember once when I was growing up, there was a porta potty down the street, and a kid in the neighborhood just got a brand new pair of shoes. He was really proud of them. It wasn't me, but one of us assholes decided to take his shoes and threw them in there, which, shitty pun alert, but that was really shitty of them to do. I guess that was a double pun.
It was clear communication, though. This is how we feel about your shoes.
Poor guy. I forget who that happened to. I know it was one of two people. I just can't remember which. Once I figure it out, I'll give their first and last name on the show.
And their social security number.
Yeah.
Hasn't he suffered enough?
That's just a horrible thing to have happen, especially something you're so proud of. And it was, it couldn't have been more than 2 weeks after Christmas. They were, I don't even know if the kid got to wear them. It might have been the day after.
Maybe we should have an exorcism for your friends.
Maybe. We were...
Our human hearts are all pretty dark, though. We're capable of that. Any of us are capable of that and more, I know.
We were a pretty rowdy group. I don't know how we survived.
Right.
All right. Well, we're going to get into the blessing portion of the show. I'm kind of culturally unaware of this part, so I'll ask you a few questions about it just to kind of get familiar. How long do these normally take?
Where you're talking about the distinction between a priest and a pastor earlier, a preacher, we don't have a set, ritual or procedure. So I basically have got a couple of blessings for the home and general blessing prayers. They aren't, and it won't take very long at all. It would take maybe 3 to 5 minutes. We going to do this on mic?
Yeah, we'll do the one for the podcast on mic.
Okay.
As he mentioned, we are going to do one for the home because longtime listeners know it needs it. I need all the help I can get. It's been a long time coming moving in. And longtime listeners, hopefully we'll be moved in by September. I got a great guy who's been working really hard on the house. I want to give him a shout out. His name's Greg. Good dude. Couldn't be happier with the things he's doing. What all is involved? Like, is there like I said, I don't want to seem like I'm being condescending or anything, or sacrilegious. I just, is there water or incense or?
No, I haven't done anything elaborate. I literally am doing all words. It's
Okay.
There are ceremonies that people have, but again, it's more associated with Catholic priests who would be using. And I did consider bringing some olive oil or some anointing oil to put over the door frames, and I just thought, I was on the fence about that. So all I've done is get a couple of prayers to use, and adapt the prayer then for the use of the podcast and for the use of the home. But the podcast one is it's like a paragraph.
Yeah, we'll just get right into that then.
All right. Gracious and almighty God, we humbly ask you to bless and sanctify this podcast and all the folks who are associated with it. Each person that's involved in it, you've created in your image and as a beloved child of God. We ask that you make them safe, and that you particularly guide Jason and help him to be filled with all good things, that you grant him, O Lord, the abundance of heavenly blessings from the richness of the earth and every substance necessary for life. Finally, we ask that you direct his desires towards the fruits of your mercy and your grace. And at the entrance of anyone onto the show, we ask God and those associated with it that you will bless and sanctify them as you have blessed and sanctified all of creation and each person listening who's made in your image, and you love them. We ask God that you bring about your light and your grace and your love, that it may dwell within each person associated with the podcast, and particularly with Jason and his wife and his family. Protect them and protect folks listening and those who dwell in your grace. We ask these things through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Very well done. I've never had a blessing before,
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
All right.
And I never really thought I would do that on the podcast.
Right.
So I think we're breaking new ground. I can't think of a comedy podcast.
Man, that was hilarious. Try the veal. Tip your wait staff.
I don't think I've heard a comedy podcast that's had the show blessed from a curse before.
Right, yeah. Well, not particularly funny, that's so it's understandable,
Could you come back with a comedy podcast?
Right.
I don't
Could
know
you come
if that
back?
would be appropriate.
Could you be funny, Dwight? No, I'm sorry, I can't. Just ask my friends.
Maybe next time with a couple of kazoos.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
welcome to the morning show, the wacky preacher blessing time. Honk, honk.
Do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Right now, no. I'm doing mainly. I got a show over October 17th in Columbus, Ohio. So, folks who are in Columbus, Ohio, that's run by Deborah Ruff, and you can look it up on Facebook. You can check my website, preachercomic.com. It'll be on there. The next thing I'm doing is September 22nd. I'm speaking to some folks at a YMCA, some CEOs for the YMCA up at a camp in northern Ohio. But that's a private event.
If anybody wanted to sneak into that private event, is there a particular door in the back that you might be able to leave unlocked?
First, become a corporate sponsor of the YMCA. Second, drive to Ohio.
That's it for us, guys. Just want to make sure I tell everybody, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're on every podcasting app available. Make sure you check out WeDon'tHaveCookies.com. Especially go to that bio section because we've added a lot of people to the show. I'm really proud of it. So go there and check out who all is involved now. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review.
Yeah.